Let's talk to Gareth Bacon MP, Conservative MP for Orpington. Gareth, I know we're going to talk about Theresa Villiers and her overturning ULEZ plans, but just before we do that, I see that you've tweeted out about Sadiq Khan recently and his disastrous policies, not only for motorists, but we get today more crime figures. 150 teenagers have been violently killed during the time that he's been mayor. Some people think he's behind this kind of police climb down.
Well, he may very well be. I mean, I think the key thing to remember about Sadiq Khan, he's been in office now for just over 7 years, and every aspect of the responsibilities that he has, he's failing on. And what he does is he'll always look to pass the buck and blame somebody else. So I've no doubt that he was in the Commissioner's ear over the weekend, because his constituent base, the left of the political spectrum in London, will have been protesting about this. And so he'll be playing to his base. So he's made loud complaints about the police, and the police have subsequently apologised. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if Sadiq Khan has something to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think most sensible people actually think that what the police did was the right thing to do. It didn't stifle the Republic's view. It didn't stop them from making their point. It didn't make any difference really to them at all. But now he's laid them open to the police, that is, to some kind of legal action, and they may well be sued now.
Well, it's not the first time that Sadiq Khan has thrown the police under the bus, is it? I mean, I can remember umpteen occasions in the past where the police have said they will have to do something according to the law. Sadiq Khan has made no noise, and then after the event he's tried to throw them under the bus. So he's got form for this. It's not a particular surprise that he's done this. Now, I wasn't in Westminster for the Coronation weekend. I was back in my constituency watching it in the rain. So I didn't see any of the things that happened on the streets behind me. All I know is what I've read, and depending on who you read, either the police were heavy-handed in implementing the new legislation, or they enabled the coronation to go ahead without a hitch. I think the truth is probably somewhere there. I don't know what it was.
Well, the only people who say they were heavy-handed are the people who they arrested from the Republic organisation. They don't seem to have been put through any particularly terrible process. They were not heavy-handed as such. They just locked them up for 16 hours.
Yes, I mean, we've got a couple of members of Parliament who have applied for urgent questions in the House today. I don't know whether they'll get them or not. But they're all members of Parliament from the left of the political spectrum. So
yes,
the protest against what the police have done is all coming from a particular direction.
Yeah, no doubt. I would expect Caroline Lucas to try and cause a bit of trouble. You never know. Let's talk about...
she was one of the MPs who put UQ in.
There you go. It's easy this guessing game in Parliament, isn't it? Let's talk about ULEZ. Theresa Villiers apparently wants to get involved in this. I mean, I've been talking to people up and down the country for the last several weeks. You know, people in Birmingham, people in Glasgow, people in Bristol, people in Oxford. You know, there's an awful lot of dissent now arising from these ridiculous expansion plans of ultra-low emission zones and all the rest of it. What is Theresa Villiers hoping to gain?
Well, last week she introduced what's known as a 10-minute rule bill, which is almost what it says on the tin. So any member can do this. You propose a new law and you stand up and you get 10 minutes to make a speech in the House of Commons. What effectively you're doing is asking for leave to bring the bill for a second reading, which is when the legislative process starts. Right. And Theresa's bill calls to give explicit power to the government to overrule the Mayor of London in certain circumstances. In this case, on transport, road and air quality policies. She made her speech. You need to have 10 members sign that bill. I was one of the members who did sign to sponsor that bill. It passed unopposed, and the second reading is due to be on the 24th of November. Now, in reality, most 10-minute rule bills don't make it all the way to the statute book. The reason you do it is to apply pressure onto the government so that ministers can see the strength of feeling, and also so the general public can see that MPs care about this issue and are trying to change things, and that's what I think Theresa's trying to do and trying to draw attention to. And
will it put any more pressure on the sort of the legal aspect of this? Because there is a dispute in the courts, isn't there, over Sadiq Khan's move to expand the ULEZ area, saying that he might have been unlawful in doing so.
Yes and no. So there's two legal questions here. The first one is the judicial review, which is taking place in July. Theresa's 10-minute rule bill will have no impact on that. They'll judge that based on the current law and whether or not Sadiq Khan followed the process properly. That'll be a one-day hearing, and we'll hear the outcome of that. I think it's in early July. I don't know the precise date. what Teresa's trying to do is change the law going forward. So even if that judicial review fails, her bill would give the government explicit power to overrule the mayor if they chose to do that.
So as far as the next move is concerned, I suppose, we've seen an awful lot of opposition in and around London, in your constituency and others that are sort of surrounding the whole of the metropolitan area, really. You know, is there any sign from Sadiq Khan that he's willing to make any kind of concession whatsoever?
No, none at all. He's been very arrogant and high-handed about the whole thing. I mean, he denounced Theresa Villiers and said that what she was doing was playing politics. Well, I find that slightly ironic coming from a man who does nothing but play politics.
Yeah, this is a man who said that it's very... This is a man that said in a London Assembly meeting, it's very clear that Tories don't care about children dying from air pollution.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not playing politics, I don't know what is.
Well, of course, and you know he's gone further than that because he's denounced everybody that's opposing his ULEZ expansion, called them all far-right, COVID deniers and neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a man that plays politics all the time.
Yeah.
So he's not going to back down. He's got a new book coming out, I think, fairly soon, called Breathe, which
I don't know where he finds the time to write
in cities. Well, yes, indeed. But so he's not going to back down. He's going to fight this all the way, and he's going to do it, I think. So the next question will be, can the government intervene? I will certainly be putting pressure on them to do so if he implements this. And, of course, if that doesn't work, then we do have a mayoral election in literally a year's time.
Yeah. I mean, some people say to me the problem with all of this opposition to Sadiq Khan from the Tory party in Westminster is that the net zero sort of contingent of the Conservative Party is still very much probably in support of what he's doing.
Some are, some aren't. I mean, we need to distinguish net zero from air quality. It's not necessarily the same thing. Net zero is about emissions.
Right.
Air quality is about the air we breathe.
Well, surely emissions
just because he claims
to the air that we breathe, don't they?
Of course they do, but they don't contribute to climate change. And what we need to be aware of is that this is actually not going to improve air quality at all, and we know that because the Jacobs report, which the mayor was required to have produced independently, so he couldn't control the outcome, it tells us it won't. So we know from their report that it will have a minor to negligible impact. So whether it improves, whether the argument is that it's about air quality is neither here nor there, because we know it's not really. So whether there's air quality people in Parliament who think this is a good idea, it doesn't matter because this isn't going to improve air quality, and that's the message I keep banging on about all the time.
Exactly. And I mean, we hear this week that the sheer weight of electric vehicles is actually now damaging the infrastructure of our roads. I mean, I'm very much of the opinion that one of the reasons we've got more potholes than we used to have is because of all these very, very heavy electric vehicles, vans, cars, if there are buses as well. But they're now apparently damaging the bridges of our country.
Well, that's quite possibly so, and it's something that nobody's really done any proper research on that I'm aware of. Electric vehicles are, by very definition, very much heavier than the petrol and diesel counterparts. And of course, the other problem we've got is that we don't have enough rapid charging points so people can charge their vehicles up. The range of an electric vehicle is much lower than a petrol and diesel car. So there is a big problem coming over the hill because at the moment the government wants to ban the sale of new fossil fuel driven cars in less than 7 years, which would imply, of course, that we'll all be driving electric vehicles in a decade or so's time. Whether the roads can take that, whether we've got the provisions to make the batteries of the cars, all of these questions still haven't been resolved as far as I'm aware.
No, they really haven't. And in fact, the answer at the moment is that we are not in a position to support everybody driving an electric car. There's not enough charge points, there's not enough electricity, and frankly, there's not enough places to park them all.
Yes, I mean that's true. I mean if you were to turn off petrol-driven cars and fossil fuel-driven cars today and make us all switch to electric vehicles, then the whole country would grind to a standstill.
Well, I mean, some parts of it already have. I'm sorry to say, but many of them not a million miles from where you're standing. But Gareth, thank you very much indeed.